On that. Hey, what's up, New Zealand and the world? Lucas Lawman's Kiwi voice on this fairly gloomy Sunday afternoon on the long Queen's Memorial weekend, if you want to put it that way. We're sitting with Lee. Now, is it Vandervis or Vandervis?
Yep, Vandervis.
The first one? Yep. Excellent, cool. Long-term Dunedin City Councilor, as we continue our series of interviews with council candidates and councillors, etc., during this local body election voting cycle. So thanks for taking the time to hang out with us, Lee. Really do appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity.
Cool. Brilliant. So down in Dunedin, so give us a little bit of your background, how long you've been in council and, some of the highlights perhaps over the last wee while. The floor is yours.
Been on council for 15 years. I used to run an electronics sound and lighting hire business, the biggest lighting hire business Dunedin has had for 22 years prior to becoming a councillor. Okay. When I got elected, I sold the business so I could devote my time just to being a councillor.
What was the name of the business, Lee? Sorry, just to...
it was called Vandervis, lighting and audio.
Okay.
Right. We used to do a lot of sound systems actually for mayors and things, but not that much for the DCC because it was a bit of a closed shop. I only got to do sound systems when their favoured jobs for the boys business was too busy to actually do a lot of stuff. So consequently, we worked out of town a lot. I did a lot of work for Television New Zealand. I used to do the Miss New Zealand shows, the telethons, all that kind of stuff. Oh, cool. Prior to that, I was a production engineer in the UK for 5 years, mostly building mixing consoles for bands like Supertramp, Pink Floyd, Oscar Peterson.
Fantastic. Excellent. So what motivated you to get into local body politics, and that's been your full-time thing since then?
Yes, since 2004. I'd like to say it was full-time. Quite a bit of the time, since I don't get the opportunity to do an awful lot with some of the mayors that we've had, I actually spend quite a bit of time playing on my hobby farm, where we mill our own timber. We're off-grid solar electric. We run our Nissan Leaf off sunshine. Do all those nice, trendy, cool things. To answer your question, the reason I got into politics was I was looking at my cell phone one day, and as well as being pretty upset that I couldn't get the opportunity to quote for a lot of sound and lighting jobs at the DCC, it was pretty much a closed shop. I looked at my phone one day and I thought, these things are fantastic. We don't need better electronics. We need better politics. Right. I was, by that stage, already reasonably well off. The business had been very successful. And I thought, blow it. I'll just run for council and see if I can't sort it out. Yep. And I went in there thinking that it wouldn't take too long, but actually, I've managed to sort a lot of things out. The DCC city fleet frauds you might know about, contracting issues, council companies not giving us dividends since 2015, for instance, getting involved in shonky subdivision arrangements. I've exposed all of those things and managed to fix most of those problems. The problems just keep coming, and the old boys are very keen for me not to be mayor. Right.
Because you've had a few cracks at mayor, have you?
I've run for mayor every time. The mayor and narrowly missed out last time. I had the most first preference votes, but missed on subsequents. The mayoralty really is the only position that matters. The mayor essentially decides what goes on the agenda, and traditionally the councillors just rubber stamp it. We don't actually have much of a democracy. It's much more of a bureaucracy these days, especially when the bureaucracy gets involved in influencing elections as they did in the last election here.
Yeah, understand. And like that's been part of the motivation of why we've put so much of a focus on the local body election stuff now, as we do at Kiwi Voice. Well, there's a team of two of us. We do think that there has been various forms of influencing or attempted influencing and that sort of thing right across the country. I mean, we specifically talk about the mainstream media pieces on people that have a different way of thinking, whether you agree with it or not, the way that stuff has been portraying some people. We're a bit disappointed with that. And we've also been recently covering some of there's been literally rogue groups out there that are targeting, advertising hoardings and, knocking on people's doors and all sorts of stuff going on. So it's been interesting times. How have you found the campaign this time around. Is it any different to campaigns that you've run in the past?
It's a wee bit different. In previous campaigns, 2016 in particular, there was a dedicated nighttime slashing of posters, for instance, the placards that you put up around the place.
Yep.
And I think it was so bad that when I replaced a poster, the very next night it would be slashed again.
Right.
So I changed my tactic in 2019, went for bigger posters and put them high up on buildings so that they were harder to slash. And that was reasonably successful. This time around, there seems to be somebody going around at night time with a van, getting even my big posters and stealing them. They're not slashing them this time, they're simply taking them away, and there's been a dozen gone already.
Goodness.
These are big 2.4 metre posters. I mean, they're not something you can walk away with under your arm.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we posted not that long ago, in the last week, I'm losing track of time, a couple of the candidates here in Christchurch, and there was security footage outside someone's house, and it was 2 or 3 in the morning on a main road, and fully balaclavaed man comes along, unscrews a couple of the hoardings and then does the bolt with them. So similar kind of thing to what you're talking about. And they're also getting a group of 4 that we interviewed yesterday. We popped up on the page yesterday, first time candidates, but they're getting their hoardings taken down and spray painted with all sorts of slurs and then put back up. So so it's interesting times, but it's also interesting to hear from you experience that this sort of thing has been happening in the past. So how's the campaign going? Have you been keeping an eye on numbers coming through? Are you confident? What are your thoughts?
Oh no, I never look at numbers because whatever numbers you get, they're coming from some source which invariably is not representative. I basically wait for the election result to come out. And, last election, 2019, I was pleasantly surprised that I had the most first preference votes, despite a sustained, basically a smear campaign run by the DCC and the local monopoly newspaper here. So no, I just do my best. I always do my best. And whatever else happens is down to other people. I recognise there's a lot of money involved in DCC and the City Council. We get through a couple of $100 million worth of ratepayers' money every year, and recently we've been adding another 100 million and just in debt. So when big money is involved, you'll find that there are people that get interested that are not the sort of people you'd want as neighbours.
Yeah, for sure. Dunedin's Dunedin's my hood. I mean, I'm based in Christchurch, but my family's down. I grew up in Dunedin. My family's out in Waldronville. Sister's out in Mosgiel. 100,000 people, I think, is it? That sounds like an awful lot of money for a council to be.
It's been increasing a bit the last few years.
Okay. Yep. That's it. Yeah, that's a huge amount of debt for that sort of population base. So you obviously speak out against that quite a bit.
Yeah, it's an especially significant amount of debt if you consider that of all the councils in the country, I think it's the 3rd highest debt in the country.
Wow.
Only behind Auckland and one other. And
Goodness.
What makes it really difficult is that Dunedin has the lowest disposable income. People in Dunedin have the lowest disposable income of any city in the country. So we have almost the highest debt, but we have the least ability for people to pay. Goodness. And we've had a succession of mayors and pushed by Labour and Greens basically now, all saying every year, oh, this is no time for austerity. COVID comes along, oh, this is no time for austerity. COVID's gone and, oh, but this is no time for austerity. They are running the most monumentally unsustainable lolly scramble in the city's history. And claiming that it's no time for austerity. They claim to be into sustainability. This is the most unsustainable council in all the years that I've been following, and that's quite a few now.
Yeah, goodness. So, I mean, you talked about you mentioned Labour and Greens. Do you notice central government significant influence on local government in Dunedin?
Oh, it's worse than that. With our current mayor, basically, he's an apologist for government policy. Right. And he even tried to get a letter sent to MP Mahuta on the council's behalf, claiming broad support for free waters.
Ooh.
Well, when it came to the council meeting, which was a Zoom meeting, I started asking awkward questions. Some of the other councillors did as well, especially Councilor O'Malley, who's been very vocal, and he's the chair of Infrastructure Services. He said, "This is absolutely not the case. As a council, what do you think you're doing, trying to give away $3 billion worth of our assets to central government and iwi to run?" And the mayor's response was to call for an adjournment and then shut the meeting down completely.
Oh,
That's
goodness.
what's been going on here.
Wow. Yeah, because we've covered quite a bit on the Three Waters issue. I've been to, I went to a couple of the main events with the Taxpayers Roadshow. And, obviously it's one of the most widely opposed, central government policy or setup, whatever you want to call it, in history, really. And, I wouldn't be surprised that obviously there would be significant, pushback. But however, it's also interesting to hear the way you've explained things there. Is the climate issue, is that being used as, don't want to be too strong a word, but is that being used as an excuse or as a reason for some of the increased spending? Are you looking at cycle lanes, that sort of thing?
Oh, yeah. Almost all of our increased spending is planet-saving stuff. It's not just the cycleways. It's not just the park and ride. It's not just the getting people out of their cars. We spent $1 million last year, pursuing a climate plan when we could have just cut and pasted one from Tauranga or anywhere else. We spend an extraordinary amount of money calculating every DCC employee's carbon footprint and their CO2 output. We have a very small department called Dunedin City Treasury. I think there's 3 people work in it. Well, in their latest report, there was 6 pages of their carbon footprint impact. And they obviously paid some consultant to do it because, there's a lot of strange boxes you've got to tick for that one. And of course, none of that actually helps the planet at all. No. And the claims that, we have to plan and we have to know what we're up against to be able to do anything. What we have to do in Dunedin is make sure that the drains are cleaned properly, make sure that the mud tank contractors actually doing the job, and there's very good evidence that for years they took the money and didn't clean any tanks at all. That's been sorted out. As a result, when we had record rains a couple of months ago, we didn't get the flooding that we got in 2015, which was largely caused by just hopeless maintenance. So we need to maintain our drainage systems. We need to make sure we're in a position financially that if we do get significant sea level rise, that we can do something about it. We've got the money to perhaps, do the Dutch option and put a bit of a dike around South Dunedin. No, they are spending the money on paperwork and more employees counting CO2 instead.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll clarify then, or try and summarise that and tell me if I've got that right. You believe that something does need to be done. We should be having a look at, the effects of some climate change issues. However, the way it's being done is very wasteful and not targeted in the right places. Would that be a fair summary?
Yeah. Even more of a summary, what we're doing is entirely theoretical and suits the shiny asses sitting in council seats, and there's no practical things on the ground really being done at all, which you can do, which should be part of everyday maintenance. Yep,
absolutely. No, that's cool. So what's, with going forward into your next term and hoping that all goes well, by the sounds of your experience to this point, I don't see there being any real issue. What's the most pressing issue that you're wanting to get stuck into or continue on with from what you've already had so far?
Well, I think you just need to recognise that when people say that council's all about the people, it isn't. It's about the money. Yep. And you start with the biggest amounts of money, I think, is what your most urgent issue is. So the biggest amount that we have in the coming term is the potential confiscation of $3 billion worth of our assets.
Yes.
We've got to stop that. And if we can't persuade government to see the error of their ways, then we've just got to take legal action. I believe some legal actions will be taken anyway.
Sure.
The next biggest issue we've got to deal with is our phenomenal and blowing out council debt, which is increasing by 100 million every year. We've got to stop that. There's 150 million of easy spending that we can cut next year. Basically park and ride 10 million, 20 million for cycleways around the university. There's just any number of eco projects that we can simply defer or cut.
Sure.
Deferring basically, they might be nice to have. Let's have them later when we can afford it, not when we're basically debt funding everything at an unsustainable rate.
Yeah.
And then we've got to make sure that the council companies that haven't given us a dividend since 2015, and remember, Dunedin ratepayers have invested hundreds of millions of dollars over decades into these council companies, and they're not giving us any return. And
so nothing at all, or
what's that?
Nothing at all, or is it hidden in balance sheets, or what's
the only thing that they have given us is an interest payment on a cash advance that we've given to them, and that basically is essentially neutral. What we have is no dividend return, and that dividend return should run to tens of millions of dollars. It used to be up to 20 millions at some stage, but unfortunately quite a bit of that was borrowed, it turns out, when you start looking closely at the books. We need to make sure that either these companies perform, or we do something about their total inability to perform and we restructure them.
Yeah,
and you know what restructuring means.
Of course. So the council has the ability to, affect change within these council-owned entities, essentially. Obviously, I couldn't imagine directly, but you've got processes and ways of going about that sort of thing.
Oh, no, directly. They are council-controlled companies. We are supposed to control them. The fact is we don't. They control themselves. They keep giving themselves massive directorship increases every year, which I've voted against every year. It's costing us almost $1 million just in directorship fees now for these various companies that we own, and we are not getting a return. So, as mayor, I will be making sure that we get a report that shows why we're not getting a return and what needs to be done to get a return. And if it's not possible to get a return, then we need to restructure.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah, nice and clear.
So another big issue is the stadium.
Yep.
Do you want to hear a bit about the stadium?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it. 100%. Yep.
Right. I got very unpopular with the local media, especially in 2007, trying to publicise a lot of essentially fraudulent spending on stadium investigations. And one of the reasons that I was opposed to what they were doing is A, it was going to be far too expensive. B, they were going to build a facility that lost a lot of the mana and the access and the parking that was available at Carisbrook. Right. I actually went to the extent of getting Carisbrook listed as a Category 1 historic place to preserve
As it should be, 100%.
Well, it was the only Category 1 historic place I've ever heard of that they bowled anyway because the old ones wanted it. And they couldn't bear the idea of, their new stadium actually having any competition in the old stadium. They had to get rid of it. So we've now got a situation where DCC directly subsidises the stadium by $9 million and indirectly, I believe, in other ways as well. And again, we are lucky to get a major event there once every several months. So my plan for the stadium is we can't avoid the $9 million that we've got to subsidise it just to keep the thing inflated every year, to spend $1 extra million and put a full, tough artificial turf into the stadium, and then allow all our sports groups and all the people that want to do events there, allow them in there so that it gets used every day. So it's still going to cost us a bundle. There's nothing we can do about it now. Just a whole lot of bad decisions led to that, but at least we're going to get use out of it. I support anything for the community that gets regular community use. I love the idea of Moana Pool gets regular community use. You can hardly get a park outside there often. I love the Edgar Centre. Gets used all the time. Fantastic. Doesn't cost us much. Brilliant use. Let's do the same for the stadium.
Yeah, brilliant. Sounds like a great idea. It's interesting that it doesn't get more high-profile events. I mean, it's the best stadium in the country by quite a stretch if you just look at it as a stadium itself. And I always wonder why. I mean, I went to Ed Sheeran a few years ago with my daughter, and that was incredible. And it handles it with aplomb. I mean, and I get your point around just getting absolute usage for it. So That's quite interesting to understand. So it still runs at a loss. You're saying essentially it needs nine or 10 million a year to keep it going.
Massive loss. One of the reasons that you can't have regular use of it is that the Otago Rugby Football Union, who, by the way, was supposed to be an anchor tenant and have never been a tenant, but one of the conditions of going ahead with it was that they be an anchor tenant. They went ahead and built it despite that condition never being met. They basically have this very delicate combination of artificial and natural turf in there. And after a game, it needs about a month or so to recover.
Right.
That's the main reason why virtually nothing happens in the place. So we need to basically confront the ORFU monopoly of the stadium. And this is where I lose a lot of votes and get very unpopular, because rugby is hellish popular here in Dunedin. But it's costing us. We can't afford it. And it's preventing all the rest of the community and all the other sports codes from actually having the benefit of what we've all contributed to, which is a magnificent climate-controlled sporting space.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I know it's outside your area, but the Christchurch Stadium has been a massive topic for council here and the public. So, based on your experience with what you've dealt with with Forsyth Bar, is it still called Forsyth Bar?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So based on your experience dealing with that, do you think it's a wise idea to go ahead and build such a high-tech stadium in somewhere like Christchurch? Do you think the population would make any difference, just as your own opinion?
The population is all important.
Yeah.
If there was an argument for having a stadium anywhere in the South Island, Christchurch is obviously the only place to have one.
Sure.
Because 3 times the population of Dunedin at least. Central in terms of catchment. Having said that, they better beware if they think they're going to have a break even out of it, because they're not. If you look at stadiums worldwide, typically 10 years after they're built, they are owned by the banks or the financiers for 10% of what they cost to build. So they are a particularly injurious financial investment. But the spin-offs, if you have population, the spin-offs can be very positive. I think even in Christchurch, you won't get to a break-even situation, even counting optimistic spin-offs. But at least you won't have the complete albatross around your neck that we have here in Dunedin. There's a very good study that's been done recently called Big Stadium, Small City. And it's an academic study that's looked at what Dunedin Stadium has cost and what the benefits have been. And it's pretty sad reading.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. Alrighty, so in regards to people want to find out more about you and your campaign, what you stand for, or any of the information about you from the Dunedin area so you're standing for mayor. What is there a particular area or ward in Dunedin that you're standing for as well?
No, it's pretty much at large for the mayoralty these days.
Okay, cool.
So the central city's basically at large as well. It used to be broken up into wards, but it's now at large.
Got you. Okay. So where do people head to? Have you got a website?
Yeah, it's called leevandervis.com. It's just all one word, lowercase, leevandervis.com. Have a look. Hundreds of pages. Goes all the way back. If you want my early sort of beginnings, you have to go down a very long way, right down the bottom to find them. And for anyone that's on Facebook, I would be the most Facebook active councillor ever here in Dunedin. And my Facebook page, again, a lot of depth there, a lot of my opinion there. But people need to remember that I'm not wanting to become mayor to impose my opinions. I'm wanting to become mayor and be upfront and honest about my opinions, but actually always work for the majority of Dunedin people. Not simply oil the squeaky hinges, which has been characteristic, I think, of previous mayors here.
Yeah, for sure. Excellent. No, it sounds good to us. I will get once we've posted this video, after we've finished the conversation, I will put links up to the website and your Facebook page in there as well to make it nice and easy for people to get to. Before we close off, Lee, have you got anything else you're wanting to cover off, or any other message you want to get out there to the people of Dunedin or New Zealand, or anything you like at all?
Basically, this particular election, you've got a choice between more of the same and the projected increases of debt of over 100 million every year, totally unsustainable, or perhaps a little too loud sometimes, councillor with long business experience and long council experience that has a plan and the ability to turn the whole thing around. That's the choice I think that people have. It would be really nice if you could send me a copy of this particular interview, and I'll pop that on Facebook as well. So
yeah, 100%.
thank you very much for your questions.
Awesome.
You should have perhaps thrown a few more curly ones at me, because I quite like curly ones. They make it more interesting. But thank you very much for the opportunity to so completely bring out what I think are the most important issues, and they are the big money ones, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we like the open conversational style on here on Kiwi Voice, and I will absolutely, I'll email you through a link, Lee, so you can share that, to your own Facebook or wherever you like, post it on your webpage or what have you. It's been really awesome talking to you. I will, if my parents haven't been on here watching this, I will point out the interview to them so they come and have a nosy as well, because they're probably looking for someone to vote for, I think, at this stage. We get that all the time through Kiwi Voice. Who do we vote for? Because I think you're right. The mood is ripe right across New Zealand and local council for change. Best of luck to you. It's been awesome talking to you. And we'll talk again soon.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lee.
Cheers, Lucas. Bye-bye.